Well, hey there, all you cool cats and kittens. Welcome to another episode of the Age Groupies Podcast, part of the United WeCast Network. I'm Mike Ergo, and along with my co-host Lindsay and Hiken, we're here to talk to you about all things related to endurance sports from an amateur athlete perspective. Talk about how to have fun along the way and make our sports a little less intimidating. You can follow the show on Instagram at Age Groupies, join our Age Groupies page on Facebook, and look us up by name, Lindsay Hiken and Mike Ergo on Strava. If you have questions, comments, or topic ideas, feel free to email us, agegroupies@gmail.com. If you guys like the show, please leave us a rating and review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. I want to talk to you about UCAN Superstarch. UCAN is what I consume on the race course and for long or intense training sessions. Now, it's different than any sports nutrition out there because they use Superstarch. Superstarch is a complex carbohydrate that doesn't spike blood sugar, delivering a slow and steady release of glucose into the bloodstream. Stable blood sugar provides steady energy to both the muscles and the brain and controls cravings caused by blood sugar lows. I recently used this to complete the Pandemic Man 70.3 using only UCAN, and let me tell you guys, I was surprised by how well it worked. Pleasantly surprised. I didn't need to use any gels, anything, just UCAN. And I felt great. I didn't feel bloated, didn't feel hungry, didn't have any of those intense cravings I get on the race course a lot. So I want you to try it out too. Learn about why you should feel the pursuit with UCAN and save 10% on all your orders by using the link in the show notes. Thanks.
All right, welcome to Age Groupies Podcast. Today we have my friend, teammate Kim Freitas, who is a freaking amazing athlete and an all-around just awesome person. Hey Kim, how's it going?
Good morning, Lindsay. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning. So glad to have you here. Cheers to everybody drinking coffee.
Cheers. That would be me for sure. I find that I can't start my morning without it anymore. So awesome. All right. So I've had requests to have Kim on the show, and I think the main reason is that, like, in terms of being an age groupie, meaning, you know, an amateur athlete who does it for the love of the sport and for fitness and what personal reasons versus, you know, as a job or as a pro, Kim is somebody who has been doing this for a long time and has done a lot of amazing, you know, really extra amazing adventures, which we're going to get to in a little bit. But let's kind of backtrack. And Kim, I'd like to hear, because I actually don't even know, after all this time riding together and everything, I mean, I don't even know when you got into endurance sports and how you got into endurance sports. So let's start there a little bit.
Okay. So I'm 62 years old, and I have always ridden my bike. And that's, for me, the entree into endurance sports is really loving to ride my bike and using my bike as transportation, as using my bike to go on vacations, using my bike to spend time with people I really enjoy, spending my time on the bike to meet people. And so cycling has been that entree into endurance sports. And some of you may know, in the Bay Area and actually throughout the country and the world, there's a group called Randonneurs, and they're long distance cyclists who do events leading to even longer events. And so there's a really active group in San Francisco, Santa Cruz, Davis, Santa Rosa, where there's a director who puts on these very low-key rides called brevets, and they can be any distance from 100K to 1200K. And they really take in some of the most stunning scenery of the Bay Area. And they've helped really get me out around the Bay to learn the Bay and help me extend my riding to longer distances. So that's been one avenue. The other is, as you know, Lindsay, joining a triathlon team that kind of stretches the boundaries of what you can do in a day, in terms of running and cycling and adding in some swimming or mixing them up, and really trying to kind of go a little further and add a bunch of disciplines in one day.
That's awesome. So I'm familiar with the Randonneurs only from you, from talking to you about your. So I'm just curious, like on a 1200K, first of all, I can say that my rump is sore just even thinking about it. My
Yeah.
body's like, you don't even contemplate that. Let me just tell you right now. But is this so? And I know it's a little bit of a personal, like you're just kind of doing your own. You're not riding in a peloton or anything like that. Can you kind of describe what it's like to do, maybe what your longest one is and what it's like? I mean, are you riding overnight? Kind of how is it organized, or how do you organize it in terms of going such a long distance?
Yeah, so the most iconic 1200K is a ride called Paris-Brest Paris. And it's offered every 4 years in France. And so that's the goal for many randonnees or randonneur riders, is to go to Paris and to qualify for that. So that's actually the purpose of the local chapters, is to help people qualify for longer rides. And the qualification standards are to complete within a fairly generous amount of time, a 200, a 300, a 400, and a 600 kilometer ride. And so you kind of work up through those over the course of the season. Actually, usually starting in February, you'll do a 200, then in March, there's a 300, and so on. So how they're organized is you have a map and a route, and you start out together. Drafting's definitely allowed, and people collaborate a lot on these rides, working together, stopping together, supporting one another. And like a typical ride might start in San Francisco and then go up through Marin, and then up into some of that beautiful dairy country north of Point Reyes, and up through Cloverdale, and then head back through some of make a big loop through Santa Rosa. So
Wow.
those rides, you just ride as you like. You self-support most often. So we'll stop at Safeways and gas stations and get food and water and continue. Usually carry the clothes you need to stay warm when it gets cooler, or if it gets rainy. You often, for 300 and 400 and longer rides, carry lights so that at night you can be seen, and people ride together in groups. It's not really, I'm sure there's a lot of fast action at the front, but for me and riders who ride at sort of more of a touring pace, we're talking and taking in the scenery, or listening to music, or and just really getting the miles done.
And I know you've done this 1200 mile one in France at least once. Is that right?
Yeah, I've done it 3 times.
Wow.
And then there's a California version of that called the Gold Rush, which starts in Davis and goes up to the Oregon border and back.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That would actually be really beautiful, I would think.
It is really beautiful.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really answer the question about night riding on long rides like that. So typically you will ride into the night a couple hours and then either stop in a hotel, or some of these rides, they set up places where you can sleep, like in a community center, especially if you're out in an area where there isn't very many towns, or a Grange Hall or something like that.
Okay. But so you don't have to carry, you're not riding with these panniers or anything.
No. You're carrying just lightweight stuff, just a few tools, clothing, food, lights, batteries.
Now, see, this is more doable, because now I'm like, well, I could stop at all these really good like cafes and then a nice hotel. Like I may.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's really, it lends itself very well to kind of a touring style. In fact, in October, I did a ride down the coast with a couple of girlfriends, Lindsay, where we just, took our credit card, our Camelback, and, just headed down the coast, and you just stay at a hotel, and there's plenty of services. So you can just travel really, really light and have an adventure, and then rent a car and come home.
So that's awesome. So I've done a couple adventures with Kim, not anywhere near the distance, but to me they were big. So first of all, Kim has organized a ride with her husband, Mike, for a long time, like 20 something years, I don't know how long, 26, 24,
26.
26. Okay.
26 years. Wow.
It's so Mike, if when this all coronavirus goes away and or whatever, we get under control, and if Kim fires us up again, you have to come. You're just gonna have to bribe your wife or whatever, because it's a weekend and you're
Okay,
gonna have
deal.
to leave your kids. But we basically start in Carmel, on Carmel Valley Road there on Highway 1, and we ride all the way down through Big Sur, and then we climb Nacimiento, and we go up and over, and we used to, the very first time I did it, we'd go through Fort Hunter Liggett,
Oh yeah.
and ride through there. Now, of course, because kind of things are security wise, we kind of go around it, and then you end up on Jolon Road, which a lot of people remember from Wildflower. We're on a different part, but that same kind of
that's amazing
terrain. And then we ride all the way down into King City and stay at a hotel there. And then from there, the next morning, we ride kind of along the foothills a little bit through the like agricultural area.
Mm-hmm.
And then we turn back inward and we do a different climb up and over, and we end on Carmel Valley Road, and we ride all the way in towards the ocean through Carmel, like for the Valley Village. And so the first day is like 100 and something miles, maybe 4. I've had Garmin's tell me 4, 7, 4, like so, but in that range. Quite a bit of climbing, but 70 something, 7,000 something feet, 78, 72, somewhere in that range. And then the next day's, it's about 70 miles, I think, right, Kim? But there's an add-on if you want to. I've never added it on, because by the time I got there the second day, I'm like, I'm good. Well, plus Josh has usually done the ride in like 2.5 minutes, and he's waiting by the car, for 4 hours for me.
So he's waiting for you, the whole time.
But Kim put this together, and actually it was my very first century ride, was day 1 of that ride. The first year that I did it, Kim, Kaylee and I were in the back of the group because we were terrified, because we'd never gone past like 65 miles. And that was our first one. And Kim was so kind. So then you bring like $20 and a thing of food to share. And there's a couple of people who volunteer, and they've got vans, they carry your bags. And this has grown, even since I started doing it 10 years ago or something. It was like 20 people when I was doing it, maybe. And the last year I did it, which was year before last, it was a massive, like they had to rent a U-Haul. It was like, I don't even know, 80 people or something on the ride. It's all word of mouth. Yeah.
And it's really because the scenery is just so stunning. You've probably been down the Big Sur coast, Mike.
Yeah. And, coast and mountains.
Close your eyes and you can visualize the waves and the cliffs, and really, really amazing.
And we do it in October, which is like a lot of times the weather
perfect
is
coastal weather.
Like, yeah.
Clear.
So Kim has been a very big inspiration to me that way, because I didn't know how to do a century, and I don't think Kim you even knew, but you were just like, you would kind of wait for us at the little stop and check in, at each, because there was a couple of stops, and she's like, Kaylee and I were like, we're okay.
Well, if you don't go too fast, you can go pretty far.
Well, Kim, I have a question for you. So I know a lot of people who use their bikes for transportation and just to get around, but they never make that jump into the longer endurance sport, or longer rides. How did you make that switch for yourself, and why do you think you got into what you're into now?
Yeah. So in the mid 80s, I met this group that did summer tours, and it's called Super Tour, and it still continues today. And it's a group of maybe 40 to 60 riders every year who get together, and somebody volunteers to plan a route in one of the Western states like Colorado or Idaho or Washington. And then we hire someone to drive a truck or a bus where our luggage goes. So it's kind of the format Lindsay just talked about. And it's a 2-week cycling camping trip. And that really just opened my eyes to, wow, you can really cover a lot of distance. You can see things a lot of people don't see, back roads, small towns. And you can immerse yourself in cycling and kind of a lifestyle of being outside. And that for me was transformational.
I see.
I did my first tour when I was in my 20s. And then over the years, I've done more, I've probably done 15 or 16 tours. And when we had kids, we actually brought the kids along, and we bring
Oh,
my
cool.
sister to help. And then we'd ride during the day, and then we started putting the kids on the back of a tandem, and we'd switch them in and out. Like, you ride 25, and now it's your turn to ride 25, and oops, there's a big hill, I got to get on my single. So it was really fun to incorporate the kids, and the community was really welcoming of them. And so, every night you go through this ritual of, putting up the tent, and that was a lot of fun for the kids. And we also had a tour chef, and Lindsay might remember meeting her, Mimi Fry.
Oh,
and
yeah, because she
would
did.
make, she would make these
great.
amazing meals that were so welcome, so nourishing. You really recharge. And so your life was just really like riding a bike and then camping in this little community, getting up, packing up, and moving down the road. And I found that just incredible. So that really showed me, like, it was possible to cover long distances. It was possible to do it in community, and it could be, you could use cycling as almost the basis of a lifestyle, or endurance sports, or just movement can just be really, really part of the way you live. And so that helped a lot. And then I began with my husband taking vacations on bikes, and that's also something I hope we get back to once our kids are a little older and doing their own thing, is exploring the world again when the world opens up again.
Yeah.
Definitely.
How about you? How have you incorporated your children into your sports and made them part of your sports life, Mike?
Yeah, that's a great question. I appreciate it. It was a little easier before when they were, let's say, 1 and 4, or 6 months old and 3. So I put them in the bike chariot and go on long rides, and they usually fall asleep, or have books to read or play with their toys. Or when I was running, I put them in the double jogging stroller, and I could tell, I'd look down every once in a while and see, oh, this one's faded, lower it down so they can sleep, and then the other one's faded, so lowered it down so they can take a nap. And we do that. And what's really been fun is over the last year, even with COVID, I did a 24. Oh, thanks, kiddo. Speaking of kids and dogs, we did a Ironman Foundation put on the 24/7 Ride for Relief, and so we had cyclists, riding relays for a whole week, and my daughter would be my coach, and I'd be riding on Zwift, and she's like, "Get up that hill, Dad." My kids would sit up little chairs and watch me. So it's fun. They like the excitement of it. So it's definitely takes some creativity to get kids involved, but not too much. A lot less than I thought. So it's, if you want your kids to be involved, I think, you can definitely find a way. Like, you look like you're talking about the rituals of putting up a tent and getting them excited about, the events you're doing.
For my daughter, the way I got her involved in running with me is, well, she liked to go on the trails, Kim. So I don't know if she's ever been out there with you, but I introduced her to trail running, so that was good. And then I convinced her to do that rock and roll half marathon in Las Vegas with me, because she was turning 21 and had never been anywhere or done anything. And so she was like, oh, I could go to Vegas. And so that's how I lured her there. And and she trained up, and we did a whole half marathon together, and it was awesome. But recently, because for me, it's like, for all of us, this is a lifestyle. And so I said to Jillian, like, oh, we should do another, half marathon together. And she said, Mom, I definitely did that just to hang out with you.
That's funny.
She's like, I'll go do yoga with you. She's more of a like gym yoga. Like, she likes movement, but a different type. But I was like, oh, okay, got it. You're not going to go run a marathon with me. She was
But that's just really beautiful that she enjoyed it because she was with you, and she will always associate that experience with you. And I mean, same with Mike. I mean, the kids kind of remembering being lulled to sleep, rocking in a bike trailer or a baby jogger. I mean, that's just part of who they are now. And their association of wanting to be with you, of doing things that you love and value, and being part of that that spirit and that joy that you find in your sport. And I think that's just so important to pass on to our kids and to share those experiences with them.
There's so many things you can share. I let my daughter paint my bike shoes. You know, so for a race, she'll bedazzle them, which is great.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
How much do you share, Mike, with your kids about sort of the hard times of the sport when you're really tapped out or really not in a good place? How have they seen you in that state, and what's their response?
I think they've seen me tired, but when I'm with them, I do my very best to just let that be the exhaustion and really try to like temper my irritability. But I think they just notice the tiredness, but I don't think they've really seen too much of that yet, because most of that would be out on the course or out on a long ride or a run where when I'm not with them. So that'll be interesting to see. Like I've experienced that with my daughter, and for herself being tired on, doing a 5K and just sticking with it. It was, I don't know if I told the story on the show before, but we did the Coronado 5K turkey trot for a couple Thanksgivings ago, and she got a little overwhelmed by how many people were out there. And so there's some tears, and we walked for a little while, and then she wanted to quit, and then we kept going. She wanted not to quit after a while. So we ended up walking most of it, and we came in dead last. We were the last two people to cross the finish line, and they were starting to pack everything up. And so, I was like, all right, you want to run the last part? So she ran the last little part, and thank God there was still a medal, for her to have, because I was like, hey, do you guys still have medals? And I remember the one guy who was packing up like the timer and everything else was like, oh, hey, do we have medals? Oh yeah. Remember that one that lady dropped in the water? Go find that one. So they had one medal left for her. And I was like, thank God. But so
5K is a big distance she must have been 5 years old. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a cool, I really praised her for sticking with it and going past it. So she's got that experience.
Grit.
Yeah, that grit, that experience of going past perceived limits.
Yes, that's important. I think that's a huge thing for kids. Like I did not necessarily learn that when my parents are academics and thinkers and creatives more than sports. So I always was sports, and they kind of like, you should do whatever, but we don't get it, but we'll support you. We'll support you for sure. Like we'll come to all the games. We have no idea what's happening, but but unless a coach or something told me to continue to go past my limits, I had no idea. And that's something I've learned in pursuing endurance sports, because I was a sprinter, because I didn't like any kind of pain. So I would just be done at 400 or done at 200. And that's been something that I've found helpful in other areas of my life. Like, I can not feel comfortable and still do the thing. And my daughter definitely learned that through just one, half marathon. In fact, when we were running, in Vegas, it's at night, and there's people just lining the streets the whole time. So it's kind of a fun race. But then then we were getting towards the end. I think we had like a little under a mile left. And she was like, I'm getting really excited. And I was like, me too. And, she'd never run that far, not even during training. Right. And so she was just like, and she said, I'm going to cry. And I was like, hold, you got to wait till you're in the chute, because you're not going to you still got 3/4 of a mile to go. We'd run the whole thing. And I was like, hold. She's like, I'm trying, as soon as we saw the chute, she started. And then we got across the finish line. She just fell into my arms, which was amazing, but just that idea of like, because at mile like 8 or 9, she was like, I don't think I can make it. And I said, oh yeah, you're just like me. It always sucks for me at mile 8 to 10. I'm always questioning my choices in life, and then it goes away. And that's what happened, and so being able to pass that experience on to the kids is invaluable. And not every parent gets to do it. But Kim, I wanted to ask you I wanted you to share a little bit, kind of switching gears. one of the things, so Kim and I have been on Team Sheeper together. Kim's been on the team for a long time, and she was there when I got there. And one of the things I've always really respected was that Kim would do these, like, set these annual challenges for herself that were like a monthly, maybe broken down monthly or weekly or however, different over the years, and just execute them, separate from anything the team's doing or anything like that. And so by the time I'd gotten there, Kim had done Ironman and this and that, done all the stuff. So she's, doing her own thing. And I think that the experience, Kim, that you have would be really valuable for listeners now, because obviously a lot of listeners have the experience of setting of registering for a race and now having a goal. And a lot of us have never done this like thing where we just have to find the motivation from within and maybe come up with our own thing. And how do we do that and what it is? So I'd like you to share share whatever you want. But one of the things I know, you did a year where you were doing basically that epic ride, ultimate run, and then the 10,000 yard swim every month. And I'll just say the epic ride is a team route, and it's 112-ish miles and about 10,000 feet of climbing. And the ultimate run is about 20 miles trails and a lot. I don't know how much climbing is on that. Do you know, Kim? But it's a lot of climbing, a lot up and down. And Kim was doing this monthly for a whole year, or more than probably 1 year, but at least a year. So when did you start doing the sort of like challenges outside of events and team stuff, and why, and kind of where did you find the motivation, and just kind of tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, I started doing that about 12 years ago. And so yeah, each year I would pick out something like do this ride every week, or do this hilly century every month, or one time I even did a sort of do-it-yourself Ironman every month. And
wow.
I mean, they would take me many, many hours, and then they would be broken. So it usually included like dinner with my family in the middle, but yeah. So, and then I'd be,
I remember that
finishing the run at midnight and stuff like that.
You were going out on that trail at dark. I remember you and Michelle said, "Do you want to come run now with us?" And I'd done the ride with them, and I was like, "What? No, I'm going home."
So I guess the thing to know about me is I really like training. And for me, it's really just the process of preparation for sometimes not even having a race goal. But I just really love, for me, the process is really the inspiration. And it's really finding an idea, thinking about how well it fits into what else is going on, just trying to understand the why I do it. Thinking about, spending a lot of time actually thinking about the happiness it'll bring me, like just looking forward to that time on the bike each week. If I've picked out one goal that I'm going to do over and over again. Sometimes I really like repetition. I like patterns. I like cycles of things. Actually, right now on the team, we're doing a kind of a program where every week 1 of every month is the same workout. Week 2 of every month is the same workout. And I love that. I love it because I love the consistency. I love in some ways, I guess, the predictability, but also just the comfort of knowing it's this day and we get to do this. And I find that just really, really appealing. I get to think about like what the hard and what the easy parts are. If I'm planning a longer adventure, I get to study the maps for a while and think about, kind of reverse engineer it and think about what'll happen if this comes up or what'll happen if that comes up. So for me, like just thinking about the rhythm of an event or a series of events or a challenge like that is really fun. As you know, we have and I actually kind of tag on to the patterns that other people come up with and try and incorporate that as a way to sort of keep me honest about what I'm doing. But then I also have formed my own groups. Like Wednesday we have a bike ride, and Friday we have a group run, and they're as much sort of therapy sessions as you know, chances to train together. And they're social, and the fact that they're deeply social is really, really important to me. And that's a big part of enjoying being part of a team. But then also when you're out doing your own thing, because it's your own challenge and you've invented it, you get that time alone, so that when you get back with the group, you're just really excited to be with the
Yeah, the
group.
Friday runs are something that I
Yeah.
drop into every chance I get, and I think the stability Kim brings, just with her doing her own rhythm and having this thing that she does all the time, is very comforting to me, because I know, like, every Friday, like, I'll look at my calendar and be like, can I, what's going on at work? Can I just go to the Friday? Because I always know, I know Kim's going to be doing a Friday thing, and I love it, and it is deeply social, and it's a really great group of people have been doing this with her for years. And I mean, sometimes Kim will organize a little, like, it's birthdays and people bring treats and we have coffee afterwards, and we've got a whole, I mean, it's a really amazing, I feel like, I look at Kim as like a guru in terms of taking endurance sports and making it really a lifestyle, and using it as a platform for
Yeah.
community, and also, personal growth. And I mean, all of those things. I mean, Kim's done a great job in showing others how to do that just by doing it. And, I feel like for me, as I age, Kim, like, I do have some more races I want to do, because I kind of came to this a little bit later than you did, for example. So there's a few more races I want to do, but the idea of, like, just being okay with doing personal challenges and having it be just part of my lifestyle as I age makes it so that you feel like you can do this forever, as opposed to, like, I feel like sometimes I look and go, I may not want to go do an Ironman forever, but I don't have to. I could do my own challenge, every month forever. I mean, and like you said, putting some thought into it and adapting it to what's going on with you is, it's just a really, like, peaceful way to approach the sport. And I respect that. So for you in the pandemic, did anything change? Because, I mean, you have this obviously ability to do your own thing, and so a lot of people kind of freaked out because there weren't races, And did you feel like like there was no change, or did the pandemic affect did it affect your kind of sport anyway? Even if you have this ability to do your own challenges.
Yeah. So COVID has been interesting, and I'll just start by saying that, I feel really lucky that we have, that our family stayed safe, and that we've been able to work at home. And so that's all made it pretty straightforward. I think for me, it's gotten me to think hyper local. So I've been doing a lot more things just within 5 miles of home. And I've also transitioned more to trail walking, and a little bit of trail jogging, but definitely more trail walking, just as a way to get out and to do something low impact and to be outside. I've kind of converted Edgewood Park into my office. So if I have meetings, I'll say, let's meet at Edgewood and we'll just walk, because rather than a coffee shop or inside. So that's been good. So I've shifted stuff outdoors that I might have done indoors, but then I've also shifted some stuff indoors. Like I have just gotten
same days. I just did it too.
Yeah.
It's great.
So now sometimes, like on a cold morning, like, Mike, I don't know how you do it, but I'll just say, oh, the garage is nice and cozy. I don't have to spend 10 minutes getting dressed. And
exactly.
So to get out every morning in the chilly fog, Good for you, Mike. That's
Oh
really
no,
awesome.
I'm Zwifting along with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I'm not trying to get hit at, that early in the morning.
Okay, good. Well, good. Those are solid workouts for sure. So I've definitely struggled with discipline. I've struggled with motivation. I'm sleeping a lot more. I get up late. I just don't have that 5 o'clock alarm going off to get to the pool. Our pool's been shut down, so I haven't been swimming very much. And I kind of miss that, having a little more reasons to show up and to show up on time. And so this social piece and connecting that in with sports and meeting people to do walks and runs has been good.
Yeah, the pool.
But yeah, this has gone on so much longer than we thought. I think we've all had to kind of settle into or figure out a way to find a new normal and embrace
the
that.
Pool,
Yeah.
And be kind to ourselves, in a sense of just like, we don't have all those forces pushing us to pushing us. So we just have to find that glow inside that makes us want to go out and get things done. And I find that through sports, I just find a lot of spirit in other people that really helps me a lot to enjoy my time outdoors.
I'm so glad you said be kind to yourself, because that is the thing I'm really trying to harp on right now, because we can't compare ourselves and our fitness levels to that of a pre-pandemic when we had access to everything. We can only deal with the reality we have now. So trying to compare that is just an exercise and self-torment.
The pool, Kim, bringing up the pool, our masters group that we swim with, isn't happening right now. And I've always known that the people swimming masters with me have been important to me. I miss them when I don't do it. Like, even the challenges that we've got, little team challenges. Like, if I don't participate in the killer quad one year, or even if I'm going to the pool, if I was just too busy, I would miss, I'd be like, oh, I miss seeing everybody in the locker room. And we have a group of chatty women in the locker. I mean, it's amazing. It's so fun. And that is one of the things I miss most. And you're right. For whatever reason, the cycling and the running they're great, but there's more like a time, like with the pool, it's like, 5:45 or 7 a.m. Like, there's a time, like when Masters is happening. And I find, like, with running and riding, if I'm doing it solo, I can kind of push off, because these days kind of blend in together, and it's sort of like, whoa, what's happening? And I miss that, like, swim starts at 7 and I'm going to go swim and I'm going to see my people right after. And, that structure, I was getting things out of it I didn't even realize. Like, I knew the social piece and the swim fitness, but there is some other component in there that I'm missing. So I'm looking forward to day we can get back to Masters. And then in terms of the comparing, I have a personal coach now, because I wanted to work on some fitness goals, and so I wanted him, and I've, had injuries and stuff. So I need to work specifically on my issues. And so I'm working with Wes, who's been on the show, and he's amazing. And he found a pool that his coaches, we all go now on Sunday mornings at 7:45 in San Jose. So I drive all the way to Gunderson. I drive it's like a 2-hour round trip commute to go to swim, but it's worth it. It's worth it, right? And then there's some running trails there, so you can do swim and then run, on Sundays. And but last Sunday was the first Sunday, and I haven't been in the pool with any consistency. And there's 2 coaches on the deck, like, trying to tell me, okay, like intervals, and I was like, I was at first really struggling mentally, because I can't make these intervals right now. I don't have any fitness. Like, they're like, oh, your form's great. I'm like, yeah, well, I've been doing coach swims for 10, 11 years, but I'm like, but I can't breathe. You know what I mean? Like, a 50. And I was like, And I had to let that go because I realized it's not my fault, or there's no shame or whatever in not having being able to make an interval you used to be able to make. I mean, I haven't been swimming for over a year really with any consistency. So towards the end of the workout, I tried to let that go and just enjoy being in the pool with, teammates and a coach. And, there's 10 lanes and we each had a lane, and there, it was really, it's like, and then they kept saying, "Oh, it'll come back. Don't worry about it. It'll come back." And I'm like, okay. But yeah, the be kind is important to remember. So.
How have you managed it, Mike, with family and probably homeschooling and not being able to, have more control over your own day and time?
Well, one really important thing that Lindsay helped me out with is she gave me her old treadmill, and I put that in my office at work. And so I can get my runs in while I'm at work, which is great because a lot of my training has to be either built into my day somehow or really early. And I luckily have a master's team here in Petaluma that still meets, which is great, that I recently joined because my old one disintegrated because of the pandemic. So I think that what I've also done is I've created my own events as well. I did that last year, did a few 70.3s with friends. And what I liked about that was the collaborative nature of putting on an event together, because one of us would be the main planner, the other person would plan like the I don't know, the stops, the where we transition, and just collaborate on the route, go back and forth. So what I loved about that is that just we could make it at our own pace, and it became more of a ride, like a touring pace and not a race pace. So having those goals for me was important, and be able to make it deeply social, like you said, was just the key to all of it.
I love that you each collaborated to plan something, and you kind of get that happiness too out of just thinking about it, figuring out the route, thinking about what will work for everyone, thinking about the timing, the logistics. And that's actually another reason I like sort of longer events and self-designed events, is like the planning process is just part of the process. And that's part of the fun of it, and part of the mental visualization that you do of really thinking through the whole thing. Races can be very controlled, and they're very performance oriented, and it's a different focus. But when you do things that you thought of and talked about with friends, like, hey, why don't we try this, or why don't we go there, and make sure we stop here, it's I don't know, you just get so much more pleasure out of it. And
I'm with you.
It also kind of shifts the focus from performance to kind of like, wow, I wonder what's around the corner, and wonder what's going to happen today, and wonder how this is going to turn out. And so you get to use, I think, more parts of your brain than sometimes a race situation, which, is just different. And I don't want to, that definitely is a very focusing event, but this is more like looking around and being in the world.
You can add so much more to it. The creativity is great. I love exercising that part of my brain. So the last one I did, T2, was about an hour because we drove from Point Reyes, where where we swam, back to Petaluma. Yeah. So
wow.
So it's like, well, we don't have. Who says we have to have like a 5-minute T2? Like,
there's no timer. There's no timing chip on your ankle. And when I think back to my favorite memories over the years of doing endurance sports, I mean, yes, finishing Ironman for me was amazing because I'd always wanted to do one, and having my family there and my kids. And I have this video of my daughter, her boyfriend recorded her taped. What am I? I'm from the 80s. That's what I am.
The VHS camera on the shoulder.
He recorded my daughter watching me run down the chute, which was amazing for me. So you can see me coming, you can see her screaming, and that was awesome. But that aside, I barely remember. I mean, I know I've done a bunch of other races. I can't remember the finish. I can't remember. I mean, it was awesome. And I know that I enjoyed it all. But my best memories are these memories more of doing some of the long stuff I've done with Kim. We rode from Palo Alto to Santa Barbara in 3 days. It was a long 3 long days. Yeah. It was about 330 miles. And the route was, our Tim Sheeper created it. So it was like 22,000 feet of climbing. And Kim is really good at just pedaling, and just a consistent pace. And my friend Kaylee and I were there, and we like to climb. I like to climb because then I get to descend and I don't have to do anything with my legs. You know what I mean? Like so the flats are hard for me. And at one point, Highway 1 towards like, I don't know, where Hearst Castle is, it kind of flattens out. And there was just these like hours of just pedaling. And Kim was just sitting on the front with another friend, Tanya, and they were just chatting and just turning him over. And Kaylee and I were right behind him. It was a nice wide shoulder, so we could do a 2x2. And Kaylee and I were dying. I mean, we kept looking at each other like, and we just got through it. And Kim knows all the good bakeries the whole way down the coast, like everywhere to stop. So she,
oh, wow.
I think at one point she
that is
flew
key.
in and was like, do you guys need to stop? And we're like, yes. So we stopped. I was so hungry and just like, and, we pulled over and went to this great bakery, and I had a hot cocoa, and then I ran across the street, and there was some pizza place that they had this like old slice that was under a hot plate, and it was like, it looked, and I said, can I buy that? And the guy was like, it's old. And I'm like, I don't care. And he said, where did you ride from? And I said, Big Sur. And he was like, oh, you could have that piece of pizza that's old. And I just ate it. But Kim, just being able to like, so that's like one of my favorite. Remember, Kaylee and I talk about that all the time, when we're out on our cycling now, like how, these two were just pedaling along, like, and it just, those memories, and then finishing that whole 3 days was amazing. That's what I think about when I think of endurance sports, not the, like, for me, not my performance in this particular race or that particular race, but more of like the community and the view. It was amazing the whole way down. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good story that captures what COVID has done, which is to kind of take away some of the pre-planned, commercialized events and helped us invent our own, and to look around and say, wow, we live in an amazing place that has all kinds of trails I've never explored, roads I've never strung together. And you kind of learn from what you like, and then you apply it to what you do. And it's, I think, asked us to just focus on the things that do give us joy, and to explore those more deeply, and to do it without the entry fee and the medals and the timing clock. And for me, that's great, because that's where I'm happier anyway. So I can't say I've taken full advantage of all the gifts of COVID, but that's definitely one thing that I've, with friends, have tried to lean into, is just how to just really immerse myself and linger in the landscapes that are here and the friendships that are here, that are better than needing to, pay to go do something.
Exactly. And wait in line for a porta potty. That's gross.
Well, and I am curious, one of the things, I mean, that's a good point about COVID, Kim, and being out on the trails and out on the road. One thing I've noticed is a lot of people that didn't know about the joys of endurance sports, I think, are discovering it. There's a lot of people that I don't think previously were out and about on the trails that are out there. Full.
The parking lots are full all the time, from like early in the morning. And that makes me super happy too, because that means there's going to be just a lot more conservationists, people who care about land, people who care about setting aside green space. There's people out with their kids. So those kids get that time with their parents of playing in a creek and throwing sticks and walking and feeling great about getting up that hill. And those shared experiences outside,
Yeah.
that's how we're going to care for the planet when we all spend more time appreciating those moments outside. And so like, wow, our park rangers are working really, really hard now to keep the parks managed and maintained with so much
I think
new
it is
usage,
amazing.
but
At first
it's
I was
exciting.
like, oh my gosh, all these people, and I can't park in my place. Like, there's some places here in Half Moon Bay that like there was never anyone in these parking lots. And it was basically my own personal little playground. Like I'd go out and run and I would see no people in this, huge open space preserve, or maybe just only my friends, it's like, and we were kind of like, gosh, all these people are here. But my mindset has changed over time because I realized like there are people who would otherwise never have known about any of this, who would just be in the mall or whatever, And you're right. It's like from a cycling perspective, drivers who would maybe previously been annoyed with cyclists are now out there riding around with their kids. And they're like, oh, I see why. B, I love it. C, I'm not going to come close to a cyclist ever again, because I've now experienced it or whatever. And so they're in a way, I do feel like the planet is, I felt like this initially with COVID, and I think it's true. It's like, there was a little bit of maybe like the planet being like, okay, we're putting humans in a timeout. Like we need to just bring it down a notch. But I also wonder how many, like for races, I feel like triathlon and other endurance, century rides and marathons and running races had been growing pretty, they'd become very mainstream, where they used to be just for random weirdos who were. And I'm just thinking like racing will be interesting because I bet there's going to be a whole crop of new people that would never have done a race if they hadn't gotten into COVID. Because now they realize like, oh, I can ride a bike, I can run, and and might be coming out. So that'll be fun, I think, to see all those people out at races too when we get back to that.
How do you think that's going to change, Mike? What do you think is going to be how are we going to snap back, or what's going to hold?
I had in my mind that I think those of us who are putting on our own events will do more of them, and it might be in response to just the increased level of fun we have from doing it, but the increased demand for races when we get back, because I think there's going to be a big pendulum swing for everybody who's missed out on races, crowding them out. And in some ways, like you're saying, Lindsay, I feel like the way I enjoy the outdoors and endurance sports, I feel like somebody who discovered a band before they got popular, and now that band is popular. So we have that resentment. We're like, I was here first.
That's right.
So we have to go find a new band.
That's right.
A new underdog.
Yeah. But when I realize that about myself, it's like, okay, people can like this too. I'm glad they do. Cause Kim, you have such a beautiful way of finding the gifts and things that are challenges and struggles, where most of us might see the downside, you see, the upside to it and the opportunities. And I think it's going to force us, and creativity is usually, for me, forced. I don't get creative about putting them on my own races unless, I have to. Mm-hmm. So it's been a good thing for me. But I think we're going to see a lot more people into these sports, and which might lead to some new races and exciting new venues.
Or just like, even different types of events, like the idea of doing a multi-sport event that's not performance oriented, like Kim was doing these Ironmans once a month, but it's not about finishing in a certain, I got a swim cutoff, but more about just doing it in the day. I think to me, like that's the personal challenge is more appealing than the end result, if that makes sense. And so COVID has really solidified that for me. Yeah. So we might see, some other different types of events spring out of COVID because of people, what they've experienced doing, during COVID, I hope. So, yeah, I think it's all good. And I think we are going to get back to events, but, I'm grateful that I have this, this passion and this, and I'm grateful to have people like
very much
both Mike and Kim in my life, because I feel like the sport is enhanced by having good people around you, and yeah, the community is pretty awesome. I just and I'm going to consider going, some longer stuff. Kim is always, whenever I'm with Kim, I always think, maybe I could go long, maybe I could do a longer ride, maybe. So we'll see what happens. But now that I know that I could do a hotel and some good food on a Randonneur, maybe I'll look into that a little bit more. What about you, Mike? You're thinking about doing some longer stuff, right?
Yeah.
Longer than.
Yeah, eventually I want to do an Ultraman, but I'm tempering that too with the time I want to spend with my family, and so I figure there'll be time for that maybe a little later on. Like right now in their really formative years, I want to be really present and take them fishing, take them to the park, do things like that. And what I'm thinking though is that this has shown me how much I love introducing new people to the sport, which I got to do last year. And I had absolutely, I think, as much joy watching my friend Sean cross his first 70.3 finish line as he did, because I got to see that. I was like, yes, I see that spark, and I got to share that with him, which is so cool. So it might mean doing more of those kind of introducing people into the sport.
In the form of coaching, or just in the form of just come along with me and
just as I think just as a friend. Too. Yeah, just as a friend.
Yeah. I think like I said, Kim introduced me to a lot of different things. My first century, my first multi-day ride was with Kim. I mean, I don't know about from Kim's perspective, but for me to have somebody who kind of had the experience there, it made it reduced some of the anxiety, because I was like, okay, well, somebody here knows what they're doing. So I'm just going to do what she does.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I think it really speaks to one of the things that's for me really rewarding is the collaboration and the trial and error. Just you get out there together and you'll figure it out. We're smart people. We know how to land on our feet. So
exactly.
If things don't go well or the way we expect, then we'll
together,
just
right?
Out.
Exactly. That's
together.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And so I really like, Mike, how you've used your interests and the skills you have and experience you have to extend your friendships and to build new friendships and to really develop a way to pull people into this creative aspect of movement and sports and using endurance to help other things in your life go really well.
Isn't it fun when you see somebody that you introduce to the sport or something healthy, introduce another person and see that ripple effect? I think that's what I'm loving too. Well, I, for one, need to just go start making breakfast for my children. But Kim, do you have any last words or any final thoughts on what we've talked about today or your journey?
I think it's just enjoy the process and enjoy the friendships that you build along the way, and find what works for you and what makes you happy, and then just try and build it into your life in a very intentional way by setting a few goals around patterns or rhythms that you can sustain, and then modify them over time so that they are sustainable.
I love that. Yeah, that totally encapsulates, what you've done with your life. And thank you
Thanks so much, Kim. I'm so glad to have you on.
Yeah. Thank you. What a pleasure to talk to.
I'm so glad to have you on. People are going to be
so
excited to hear you. You were the most requested person I know to come on the show. People definitely I've had emails. I've had people run up to me on the trail. Hey, are you going to have Kim on the show? I'm like, I will. So I finally got you. I'm so excited. And I just truly appreciate your friendship. And I hope to see you Friday.
Good. Thanks, Lindsay. Thanks, Mike. Enjoy breakfast with your children.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Alrighty, that concludes today's episode of the Age Groupies Podcast with me, Lindsay Hiken, and my co-host, Mike Ergo. We really hope you enjoyed it. You can follow the show on Instagram at Age Groupies, join our Age Groupies page on Facebook, and look us up by name, Lindsay Hiken and Mike Ergo on Strava. If you have questions, comments, or topic ideas, feel free to email us at agegroupies@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, please leave a rating and review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast, as this really helps us get more exposure while we try to grow this little venture. And of course, if you have friends you think might like the show, please be sure to share it with them. But for now, thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next week.